Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and Merry Christmas to all from the Amateur Otaku podcast. How is everybody doing out there? I am Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet Fan here, and I am happy to be here to talk anime with you guys. But as you guys know, I am not by any means alone in this live stream. As always, I am accompanied by the one, the only, the guilty as charged, Isak Wolf. What is up, man?
It's good. Well, I'm sitting here preparing to talk Guilty Crown with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This was another recommendation by you, Isaac. Which I mean, a lot of the anime, I think 75% of the anime that we cover here are recommendations by you. 15% are recommendations for the, yeah.
15%. I would even go so far that 90 to 92.
Okay, first of all, I do something here, okay? It's not like you do everything. I do something. I've recommended two. Not. I don't even know. Isaac, I know what I've done, and it's not as much as you. So let's move along. But yes, hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Amateur Otaku podcast. As Isaac said, he's excited that we're going to talk. This week's episode is on Guilty Crown. If you guys like what we do here at the Amateur Otaku podcast and the conversations that we have about anime, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit on the bell for notifications so you don't miss any live stream. You don't miss any of the episodes. Subscribe to our podcast. Follow it. Our podcast is available on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, on everywhere where your podcast is available. That's where we talk anime. So, and what we like to do is give our thoughts on the shows that we watch and do it in a semi, if possible, non-spoiler fashion. So that way we can motivate you to go check it out for yourself. So we want to be the people that you come to find out if this anime is worth checking out, because there's so many anime out there that a lot of people that watch anime all the time don't know where to pick, or they rewatch the same things that they love. And people that don't really wander into the world of anime as much as others don't know where to start or where to begin. So we try and cover a good variety of different types of anime so that you can listen to us, have a good idea, get a good grasp of what the show is about, and then choose for yourself. And Isaac, I think we picked a very good episode, a pretty good show for this week. And I'm really excited that we're finally able to cover it on the live stream. I also want to do a quick announcement. You guys know that last week we started doing a new series on Attack on Titan because, as you guys know, the final season is ongoing right now. So what we're going to be doing is, because we want to be able to have as much as possible to digest and to discuss in every episode that we do, especially since a lot of times because of my work schedule, it's kind of hectic to find time to record. We're actually going to do it bi-weekly. So we're not going to do it every Monday. As soon as an episode comes out, we're going to do it every other Monday. So that way, every time we do a live stream review of Attack on Titan, we're talking about 2 episodes per recording. So that way you have a good grasp. We have a good grasp of the connectivity of the story, and see how it links to everything, you know. And I don't know. I think it's a good idea where we can talk more, because the last episode that we did, which will come up on our website very, very soon. It'll come up on our YouTube channel very soon. I know that right now all you have is like the stream version. The official video will come up very soon, sometime this week. It was a very good conversation. We talked Attack on Titan for almost an hour, and we want to be able to dive into each of these episodes and to all the details that are observing. And Isaac, I am going to say this last episode on Reiner was pretty fantastic. So I can't wait to cover that when we cover it next week, especially because of the preview that we got of what's coming and the last scene of that episode. But this episode is not about Attack on Titan, but stay tuned. So every Monday at noon, Isaac and I will be talking Attack on Titan. So make sure you subscribe to our channel so you do not miss our next Attack on Titan live stream. But now let's get to it. Let's go right into this. Let's talk about this show. This show is Guilty Crown. Isaac, before I read a summary like I normally do. How did you find out about this show? Did someone recommend it to you? Did you watch it one day on a whim? What's your connection to it?
Well, like many others, I just found it randomly.
Okay.
Honestly.
And
I binge watched it.
Okay. So how long did it take you? Like a week? Did you binge watch it like right away, like super quick, or
entire day?
Wow, that was a long day. I binge watched it. I mean, it is a short show. I mean, one of the advantages of Guilty Crown is that it's only 22 episodes. So if you do the math, they're 24-minute episodes. You can practically watch the entire series in 9 hours. I actually watched the whole series in 2 days, preparing for this, preparing for the pod, and it was a good experience. I mean, the good thing is that it's a good, nice, smooth watch. It's not one of those episodes. It's not one of those shows like, like I.G Invaded, where you can binge it, but each episode is like very heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that show is heavy. Like it's only like 12 episodes. It's only like, I think it's 10 or 9 episodes, but each of those episodes feels heavy. Like there's a lot of information, especially, well, it's more of a crime procedural too, so it's to be expected. This one is not of that nature. This is more like a action kind of / shonen, but it's not really shonen. But it's more of like an action sci-fi show, and but it's more on the light side, so because it's a lot easier to follow. Do you like this show, Isaac? Like, did you like it enough? Yeah. Okay. What rating would you give it?
How should I?
I know it's good enough or interesting enough that you recommended it for the show, which is why we're covering it.
B.
Okay. And it's funny because a lot of times, most of the times when you recommend something, is because it's fantastic. And I think this is one of those shows that I'm kind of mixed on, which is rare. You've given me a mixed show, Isaac, at least for me. But we're going to dive into the conversation, and you guys will find out why I feel how I feel very soon. So, Isaac, I'm going to go ahead and read a quick summary of what this show is about, and we'll start our discussion. You ready?
Yo.
Awesome. Let's do it, guys. Okay. Set in a future where Japan is quasi-governed by surrounding nations due to the outbreak of the apocalypse virus, Guilty Crown tells the tale of an unassuming teenager named Shu Oma. As he encounters a wounded pop icon in his AV lab, his life unravels as he is thrown into the front lines of a civil war for the survival of his country and those that he cares for the most. Infected by the void genome in an accident, Shu is granted the king's power, which allows him to draw out people's hearts in material form known as voids, to aid him in his quest for growth, life, and redemption. This is Guilty Crown, directed by Tetsuro Akari and produced by Production I.G. So before we dive into the show, we always like to talk a little bit about the forces or the people that worked on this. And I found out a lot of very interesting things about the people that worked on this show. And the first thing that was amazing, I think the easiest one, is the studio that produced it. Is this little studio, I don't know if you've heard of it, Isaac, it's called Production I.G. You know, this rarely known studio. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they barely do any anime.
Yeah, they don't do anything at all. I'm looking at their Wikipedia page, and it's more than 2 pages long. But yes, Production I.G is one of the most popular anime companies out there. They worked on They worked on Neon Genesis Evangelion with Gainax. They worked on, I think they worked on Fully Cooley. They worked on so many different shows. They've worked on Psychopaths, which is a show, Isaac, that we have to cover sometime. They've worked on Ace of Diamonds, which is a sports anime, Hayaku, which is one of the most popular sports volleyball animes out there, the Ghost in the Shell Arise series, the Legend of Galactus Heroes, Fully Cooley Progressive, Fully Cooley Alternative. I mean, and now there's one of the more popular animes out there. You probably have heard of it. And these two are very interesting. Noblesse, I think is like one of the more popular animes that are going on right now, and Moriarty the Patriot. So it's one of the biggest anime companies out there with a lot of different productions going on. So they made this anime back in 2011 under the direction of Tetsuro Araki. And this name I have never heard before. And as usual, Isaac, I like to throw myself into rabbit holes. Did you know
rabbit holes? I didn't know that.
And I am not rabbit. I'm sorry, I had to. I just bought a Switch, so now I'm thinking Nintendo and rabbit. Yes, Isaac is giving me he's right now parading in Sweden because I got a Switch, and he was finally able to destroy me in Smash. It was an experience to remember. I did not sleep yesterday.
No, it's the next project is having acquired Fire Emblem Three Houses.
And based on your track record, Isaac, it took you at least almost 2.5 years to get me to buy the Switch. So it's probably gonna be another 3 years before I buy Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Dude, now you have the console, and a game is cheaper than a console.
That is true. But maybe I'll do it just to see how you react. Just to see you boil over, Isaac. Maybe I go mad once. No? Too much? Should I hold back?
We all know that you can't. That you will buy it one day.
Very possibly. So, talking about the director of Guilty Ground, Tetsuro Araki. Have you heard of, before I talk about his rap sheet, right? His bibliography, his resume. Have you ever heard that name before, Isaac?
No.
So here's the funny thing. This guy, he was the director of, I don't know, this little show called Death Note and this little show called High School of the Dead. And he directed seasons, I don't know, 1, 2, and 3 of Attack on Titan. This dude.
Which makes it even funnier considering the composer for the show is the same as Attack on Titan.
Wait, Link to Horizon did the music for this?
Yeah, last time I checked, yeah.
I missed that. It actually makes perfect sense. So it's not a glitch in the Matrix. It's crazy. Why is it that this guy, he's so attracted to apocalyptic stories? You know what I mean? Like dystopian, like world-ending stories. Death Note is a quote-unquote apocalypse story in a very small scenario, right?
Hiroyuki Sawano is the composer for Guilty Crown.
Hiroyuki Sawano, which is part of Link to Horizon, which did at least all the music for the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan. At least the one that everybody knows, Gure no Yama and Sasageo, all that's Link Horizon. Sasageo, copyright. YouTube, don't take us down.
What's up, Gabriel?
Hey, what's up, my brother? How's it going, guys? So, why? Thank you. I'll be here all for the next hour. Maybe you'll laugh again or just stop listening because I'm boring. Thank you, Gabriel. But yeah, so he worked on all these little shows, but also he worked on this show and movie. And I know we talked about it once that we might want to cover it in the show. Do you remember this movie that came out that I think it's on Netflix called Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress?
Say that name again.
Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, which is like this kind of like samurai, and they're like zombies that are like blow up or whatever.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
He did that too. Like this guy has been linked to like really big projects, which is pretty crazy that I've never even heard of him before. And I'm kind of glad that it took Guilty Crown to make me aware of his existence. So that's another name that I'm gonna like flag that I gotta keep an eye on, because it's pretty awesome, because he's worked with really great projects. Even though I'm kind of mixed on this one in particular, he's worked on a lot of great stuff. And while we were talking off the air about this, did you know that the writers for this show, they worked on Code Geass?
Not so surprised.
And it's funny because I was telling you how this show has a lot of like Code Geass vibes, which is another show to cover. But it has a lot of Code Geass vibes, where you have this student in an organization that's like clandestine, and they're trying to overthrow government in a way. It's like it has a lot of vibes there. But I feel, which is one of the things that I'm going to talk when I talk about the things that I didn't like about the show, or things that troubled me in terms of their execution, which I kind of was reading some of the forums that's what a lot of people go through. Have to do with the execution of a lot of the ideas, but the concept of the show is pretty good. But yeah, Production I.G, great company. The animation is fantastic. It is a show from 2011, so you do see a lot of like pretty well refined digital imagery, the use of digital enhancements on animated drawings. It's not as advanced as what you've seen now, but it looks very good, very nice, very clean, very polished. So let's talk about the show itself. It has very catchy tunes. Of course, we have a quote-unquote pop icon in the middle of it, at least from at the beginning of the show, right? Let's talk about the show. So you have the main character, Shu, which is this kid that's lonely, that kind of doesn't know who he is, and what his purpose in life is. You know, like to a degree, typical anime protagonist in like a slice of life or epic story setting. You always have a guy. You either have a guy that's like super ready to kick ass, you know what I mean, or you have a guy that feels like he's the bottom of the barrel. You know what I mean? You always have those two extremes as a protagonist. So we got the other side of the protagonist. But there's something about the presentation of him and the way his story kind of develops and the way that he makes decisions. I don't know, man. I couldn't connect with him. I felt like a lot of the reasons why, like, we never really get a reason of why he says no, of why he's scared. Like, yeah, he's kind of nervous around people, but you never really find out why. You know what I mean? Like, you never find out if he had a trauma that marked his social interactions with people.
You get the knowledge that he has.
No, he does have. He does forget the things that happened, but they don't. But they don't link that to the way he carries himself, to a degree. Like, they don't link that. Like yes, they say that because of what happened, he kind of forget that he was this great kid with the whole guy thing. But you really don't. What I was trying to say is, the reasons of why he's the way he is are not something that they take the time to clearly explain and link. They make it when they come to an explanation, it's like a moment of his life story, but they don't link it directly to the trauma that's driving him to make these decisions. And it's funny because I have to bring up one of your favorite shows, Isaac, which which is something that Neon Genesis Evangelion does very well. Like,
Funny because I think Shu is a much better character than what Shinji is.
well, but here's the thing, though. To me, I like Shinji better, not because keep in mind he barely grows throughout the whole show, and I get it. But Shinji, from episode 1 and 2, you already know why he's so messed up. Like, you know the emotional turmoil and brokenness that he has because of his broken relationship with his father. And all you see is his father continue to stomp down on who he is throughout the show, which makes his situation worse. You know, not that it's a nice story, but at least the character, if the reason he's doing this, a lot of people say that he's a bitch, but he's not. The reason why people hate him and the reason he doesn't get on the robot are reasons that you clearly know, whether you agree with them or not. You know what I mean? Like, there's a more of a clear
Yeah.
definition of his trauma and why he is this scared little kid that can't think for himself. You know what I mean? It's very clear.
Check the chat, by the way.
With Shu, it's a little harder. It's a little harder to
Check chat.
with Shu, it's a little harder to determine that. You know what I mean? It's a little harder to determine that whenever you are with Shu in comparison to when you look at Shinji. You know what I mean? So I I kind of don't like Shu. Like, I like Shu more towards the end of the show. Even though the ending kind of like not ruined Shu, but ruined the show for me. But I like,
I,
yeah, the ending was kind of like, we'll talk about it in a minute. I don't want to rush through things. But yeah, but Shu was one of those characters that I kind of felt like I couldn't really connect with him as much as I wanted to, maybe. And the funny thing is that this is a show that, strangely enough, it's it's carried by its supporting characters. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think that's kind of a weakness because on a show of this nature, especially when you have this super powered, you know what I mean, protagonist because of his power to extract these voids that are these weapons. Like, he can go into anyone's heart and extract the essence of their heart and make it into material object. It's either a sword or a bow or a gun that cancels gravity or a gun that opens doors. Like, it's really weird, really complex. I couldn't really connect with him. I didn't necessarily say I connected with him. I connected more with the supporting characters. I connected more with Ayase. I connected more with Guy. And I didn't even like that much Inori either, which Inori is the pop singer and second protagonist, which is the person that it's the person that Shu has to insert his hand in to be able to extract his main weapon. And I never thought I would ever say that in a podcast. But welcome to the Amateur Otaku, where we speak all truths in anime, even the sticking of hands. But yes, okay, I'm not trying to be dirty, even though it sounds very dirty. But the way the power works is that he has a mark on his right hand, and whenever he looks at a person in the eyes, that person's chest lights up, and he's able to insert his hand in the middle of the bosom. I mean, in the person's chest.
Oh
And
my god.
I know, I'm sorry. It's just right there. And he's able to extract the sword or the power or the void or whatever that is. Now, the character of Inori, yes, I get it. And it's funny because you know how I said that Shu kind of reminds me to a degree to Shinji, at least in the beginning. Because it's funny because Shu starts like Shinji, but by the end of the show, he's more like Lelouch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he's like a weird hybrid, which is probably why, because I only like Shinji because he's really broken, like irreparably broken to a degree, and I'm okay with that. But him is like I want to know why. I wanted to know more of why he was broken, to kind of like get behind him and see him and root for him, you know. And I never really got that. But I like his redemption arc or whatever. But yeah, not going too far. But Inori, which is the girl, the pop singer that he's like obsessed with and then falls in love with and whatever, and becomes like his tool in battle. And I can't help, like, another thing, like, she doesn't she remind you of Ray, like this, like she's this blank figure, you know what I mean? And of course you later find out that she's not technically human, and that, you know, all these things of emotions and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, yes, you want to justify that this character, to a degree, didn't have a significant growth because she wasn't human and didn't have emotions. But then all you see her is doing the same thing all the time, as opposed to see a progression to her. You know what I mean? Like, if she's supposed to be this person that acquires emotions throughout the show, shouldn't you see that shift as well? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
her development was like, see, Shu had extreme development, like over the top, which works, but over the top growth and trajectory. And Nori technically didn't have any, apart from those weird moments in the middle where she was kind of like ditching Chu or whatever. But then all the other characters, or all the supporting roles, like Guy had a fantastic story. Ayase had a fantastic story. Yahiro had a fantastic story. Like, most, Arisa had a fantastic story. Like, there's a lot of these supporting characters that had great stories and great development. Even some that turn evil, and you never expected that they would turn evil or whatever. Like, this is a show that's carried by supporting characters, and I don't know how I feel about that, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, what makes it kind of hard is that you can kind of tell that even though this show is carried by the supporting characters, it wasn't designed that way, because everything revolves around Shu. You know what I mean? Like, the show
Yeah.
wants you to get behind him, and I had trouble doing it. Now, that being said, the story is interesting, because, going back to the rating that you gave it, Isaac, you gave it a B rating. The show is
Yeah.
interesting. The show is interesting. The concepts that it plays with, the idea of voids, the void genome, the idea of the hearts, the apocalypse virus. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. What's your take? Well, what's your take on the characters? Do you have a take that's different than mine? What's your take?
Do I think that Shu is the best written character of all time? No. But I also think he he is without a doubt Shinji's stereotype. That much is clear. I mean, oblivious, scared, don't know what to do, all that jazz. But the reason I prefer him, yes, you go down deep within why he is the way it is. But for me, it feels like he goes nowhere with their approach of Shinji. Here, they know what they want to do. They are rather simplistic with. I mean, they know that they want to be a. They want to. They know that they want to be a. People against tyranny type stuff, rebellion versus tyranny, and they focused. And they want to focus a bit on the ideological differences between the two, and have sort of like show as a reason why show works, in my opinion, is that the general thing about the story is the world around it. It's just the ideology, the clashes, and he is sort of caught in the middle, sort of like, what's this guy name in the princess name in Princess Mononoke again?
Achitaka.
Yeah. While he takes more of a side here, he is more meant to be the person, so the viewer's point of view instead. Because let's face it, all of us would be scared and unsure of what we would do in his situation and all that jazz. That's why they are, or they are taking sort of like with the Son Goku. Everyone says that the side's character is better written than him. It's because Son Goku is supposed to be a sort of like a, dare I say, power fantasy of some sort, and I would argue that because what makes him work is sort of like, you can understand why he's scared. You can understand why. You don't need going into. They make it work within their focus of the story, and like you said, the side characters are much more interested, which makes it all balanced about. But for example, Tenchimuyo, example as another stuff that people argue that it's about him and his daily life. But what's the more popular thing that makes people drawn to it? The side characters and their interaction. Tenchimuyo is sort of like the viewer's point of view character instead, and he's written to be like that. And I would argue that Shu is the same, but with a bit more character tropes than just to fit within the story, so to speak, and have. This is a story that I don't need to go into. It's a story that they decided to not go in superb deep, a la super philosophical and all that. Yes, that End of Evangelion tried and failed in my book, but that's another story. And no,
not only in your book, in every single book. That movie is the worst thing that ever happened
I
to
was
humanity.
I was talking about the franchise in general, but
Wow.
that's up for argument. But like I said, I don't have any. Well, I think you have point at you, and I think the quote unquote plot twist at the end works as an explanation on why he acts like he is. Maybe it's because of my personal experience. I don't know, but that's the reason why I feel that show works.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you because based on what you're saying, which is true, he's treated more to a degree as a blank slate, where he is the vessel for the viewer, and he's the one that's taking everybody's ideologies, and then we see him come up with his own.
Yeah, which is why you would argue that Uni and Haru, why you can question why they sort of well, but that is a what's it called, nitpick in my book, considering how it's not too much front and center.
How do you mean?
You know exactly what I mean.
No. What about being front and center? What nitpick do you mean?
If I mention two female characters and their connections, their connection with the main character, and you can argue.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I think part of my struggle maybe is maybe because part of me didn't want to accept that he was, that blank slate, or he was supposed to be that blank slate. I kind of wanted to know more of his story before everything that happened. Like he kind of gives, like most characters that we meet, right? Most characters in most anime, especially epics like this, you always at some point you get a glimpse of who they were, and yes, you kind of get a glimpse of who he was and who he forgot he was, but not really of who he was prior to the moment that everything happened with Inori. But yeah, that I can see what you're saying, and yes, I mean the show. You can argue, you cannot deny that the show does a very good job in developing him, and I think. Well, while you were talking, this came to my mind, especially with the development of Shu, is that Inori says something that I think is one of the best lines of the show. And he talks about how she learned to be human by watching Shu make mistakes and learn and suffering and all those things. And it's a beautiful line, and it is true, you know. But at the same time, it kind of makes me think maybe I needed the show to be a little longer because I needed to see more of those moments. I mean, you kind of saw some of those moments, especially in the quote unquote tyrant arc, if we're to call it that, because Chu's character goes through. You could say that his personality changes rival Kaneki's.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, the show's interesting. At least it has fantastic supporting characters. I do like where the character ends up at. The mythology of the show, I found it pretty interesting. But at the same time, that's the other thing. To me, it's underdeveloped. Like a lot of the things of why those things exist, where they come from, feel like we never really dive into them. Like they're just MacGuffins. Like the whole thing with the voids, the whole thing with that rock, the whole thing with the virus, all those things are severely glossed over, and they're all MacGuffins for the story to move along. And yes, I'm aware that the main thing of the show is not the virus, is not the voids. It's this survival arc. You know what I mean? Like Japan surviving, other people governing them, and then this weird organization, Darth, which I have no idea where they come from. And what a horrible way of trying to mask that their name is Death. They're just Darth. They're not Death. They're Darth. But yeah, am I the only one here that feels that way? Like a lot of the mythology that they use to run the show is kind of like it feels like underdeveloped, and it feels, I don't know, like it was a great idea on paper, and they make it work for what they did in the show, but like, and yes, not every show is going to go in detail. You know what I mean? But for example, if it had, I wondered if they had more episodes to do because this show was not based on a manga. I think the manga for this show came after the show. I
It
think
did.
what was that?
It did.
So it makes me think that maybe because of that it was either kind of rushed or they just didn't know how long they were going to go for. But it's like after watching shows like My Hero, which I'm not expecting this to be My Hero, but watching shows like Attack on Titan or watching shows like even Code Geass, which has the same group working on the show, those are shows that introduce a fantastical element to it, but they take the time to develop it enough for you to be satisfied whether they keep doing the show or not. And I know that Code Geass has had sequels and movies and stuff like that after the end of the show, which is like I think it's 50 or 52 episodes. But you feel satisfied at the ending of the series because you know enough of the mythology to understand why the decisions that were made, yada yada. Here, which leads to the ending of the show, because a lot of the things of the mythology were underdeveloped, the way the show ends, you're like, okay, everybody's happy, but what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like, were you satisfied with the ending? Or did you feel like, okay, that's over?
Sort of like. Sort of. I can see what you mean with rushed and all that, but considering what, like I said, it was the ideology between the two sides, and like you also said, survivor part. I wasn't that bothered with it, even though would be nice to. Would have been nice to see some more of the world and all. I will admit, this is one of the reasons why I'm only giving it a B, for example.
Yeah. So yeah, it does a lot of it does the things that it's supposed to do good, like this good supporting roles, interesting concept, um, good animation, but certain things that could have made it fantastic, it fails. Is it fair to say that? Like this is one of those shows that had extreme potential to be better, at least for me. And I'm not a creator. I mean, I'm not a writer. I'm not pretending that I think that I know more, but I've seen enough fantastic anime to know that a lot of things I would have liked more. I think more of my, because you know me, I don't hate anything. You know me, I don't hate
Oh,
anything, and
so so
uh,
so you admit that you love End of Evangelion, then
no, I hate that from the depths of my soul.
you
Um,
just said that you don't hate anything.
don't judge me, Isaac. I can burn my tongue and drink my tea. I don't know what that means, but that's I said something. But
That was
but
the most illogical the thing you've said in a while, and you talk a lot.
just like I never again. So it's the most illogical thing that Kainaga has ever done, which is why they're making 4 new movies. Okay, so
Oh, help me,
carry,
dear Naga.
carry on. But but yes, I think the way I feel about Guilty Crown is not that it's bad. It's enjoyable. The action's pretty solid. I did connect with some of the characters. I wish I could have connected with Shu more. Um, but I feel that this show maybe it's not that I hated it because I didn't. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I felt that it could have been better if 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 we had maybe more time. with the story, more time with the mythos, and more time with the main character, maybe this could have been an epic show. Instead, we just got a good show, which is something that you should still check out. I mean, favorite character. I mean, Guy was fantastic. Ayase was fantastic. I mean, a lot of supporting characters were fantastic. Can I say that we really don't have a villain in this show, which is the other thing? Like, you really don't have a villain. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you have like an evil force, and I think that goes with the whole mythology
I
thing.
mean, you have a villain, but not the villain you expect.
Well, yeah, but you understand, like, but you don't have. It's like you don't have a. You don't have like the father of Lelouch. You know what I mean? You don't have like a you don't have a Reiner to Aaron. You know what I mean? You don't have a Full Metal against freaking. You don't have a Greed against Scar. You know what I mean? Not Greed.
Yeah.
He's not Greed. He's Wrath. You don't have Wrath against Scar. You don't have a rival. And yes, you do have the whole rivalry towards the end between Guy and Shu, but you also really don't because they make up real quick. You know what I mean? Like towards the end. You know what I mean? So you really don't have a villain per se, which is maybe the argument is that it's not about having a villain in a war. It's all about his growth and the war within. And I mean, you can go in that tangent, and maybe you have a point there, but that's the other thing. It doesn't have there's not a driving force of evil that we feared throughout the movie. Everything was always left in the shadows. Even that weird kid that disappears and reappears, he just ends up disappearing and we don't see him again. Like we don't actually kick his ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which again goes to the mythology thing. But yeah, this show I think was good. I don't have any more else to say about it. It was a good, entertaining show. Good way to spend my time, but it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't great. Anything
If,
else you want to add?
just curious. If you were to, let's say that Production I.G said, "Hey, we want to quote unquote fill the blanks within this mythology, and we can make a spin-off show. We can make a movie that connect the dots. You know, sort of like how Kingsglaive fills in a bit on for Final Fantasy 15. How would you approach it then? Since you or would you just give it more episodes, so to speak?
I mean, I maybe would have done maybe more episodes, but I would probably spend more time with Shu before he meets Inori. Like maybe showing him, maybe show Shu like I know we see Shu like in the top of a building watching a video of her, but we kind of don't get a glimpse of the fact that he literally lives alone, that he barely has friends. Like we kind of get glimpses of that, but not like in detail. Like he doesn't spend time, like his mom is there only once a week, and like he can get into how he's lonely and how he kind of hides himself in the internet, in his videos, in that thing. Get a bit more sense of this is a kid that not only lives alone but also self-isolates, which is what makes the idea that he now is in the forefront of everything that's happening in the world even more drastic of an impact for him, because he's been digging, because he knows that he wants to be better for a while, which I know that's also like kind of what you see in the beginning, that he wants to be better, and then but then you have the whole thing where he's giving a chance to be better, but he just chooses not to because he thinks it's easier to not do it, which I understand that. But maybe do that. in the beginning. Like maybe make the first episode of his day alone and like end the episode when he meets Inori, as opposed to rush the entrance of everything. You know what I mean? Like instead of making it, because
Yeah.
you really don't have enough time with him to then get behind him when he does that. All you see is a scared kid, which we've seen scared kids before. But especially with the very emotional arc that he had throughout the show, I would have liked something more for me to connect with him. That's all. A little bit more in the
Uh,
beginning, a little bit more in the beginning, and maybe a little bit more of where Inori comes from, and a little bit more of him understanding where Inori comes from and how that solidifies their bond. Because that's the other thing. Like there's supposed to be this love relationship, even beyond this other character that whatever happens to her. You know what I mean? Like this is why, and this is going to sound very stupid, and I know you're not like the craziest about this show, but I'm just doing it to make a point. This is why I love the 0 2 and hero relationship in Darling and the Franxx, because because the show makes it a point to show you who these characters are apart, what brings them together, and then what makes them and their relationship deepen. You know what I'm saying?
uh,
And
I
and
would
you
argue that that relationship is rather toxic, but that's besides
well,
the
no,
point.
well, that's not true though. That's not true though. It kind of seems that way in the beginning because Zero is in this power trip. But once she discovers that Hero was his darling, or was her darling, she changes completely and treats him with love and respect. And they do grow into a couple that love each other, like for real. In the beginning, it's toxic and horrible, yes, because she is used to using people. Because
So
that's
Stockholm syndrome.
in the beginning. No, not Stockholm syndrome. No, because remember, in the beginning,
But let's continue with the
but yes, I would have liked a more, perf- a more. I would have liked to connect more with him individually, more with Nora individually, and then see more of their relationship and how it comes together. Because you really don't have, like, by the end, you're supposed to be like, yes, they're together, or they're not, or whatever. And I wasn't that way because they didn't give me the little nuggets that I needed throughout to get them together. You know what I mean? That's all.
yeah
Like for
favorite
example,
character.
in the show,
Yeah.
guy, guy, 100%, guy, hands
Oh,
down. I'm between. It's either guy or Ayase, hands down.
I never expect Haya. I never expected the second part.
Who, Ayase?
On the yeah, I don't
Why?
know why.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
it's just honestly for me it's I actually pretty much like them all to some equally. I had a sure I can admit that I had a soft spot for horror to some degree, and I
mhm.
did because well I know people like that. Maybe that's why, but yeah, in terms of how in Britain how they were written, I definitely argue that the guy is the best one of them.
Yeah. And not only that, guy is pretty. Even though he's kind of like the straight man, you know what I mean? Like he's like the guy's guy, and like he's the leader. I like how the show. See, the show took the time to show his frailties and to show and show him in weakness and stuff like that, just like Shu did, you know. But for him, I don't know, it felt more organic for him, and he's just fucking cool. Oop, excuse me. He was just cool. Guy was just a cool character, and Ayase, um, it's even though she is kind of like a stereotype character, she is a charming character too. So she was one of my favorites. especially in her lowest moments, which are perfectly believable. Um, I like how the void is supposed to represent who you are inside. You know what I mean? And literally,
Yeah.
she never stopped being a knight, a warrior, because even though she has her disability, her void literally allowed her to run just like her spirit is free, you know, which is kind of poetic, which is kind of
Yeah.
awesome. So, but yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you, Isaac. It's a B. It's a good, enjoyable show, but I think my thing is that I wanted to like it more. I just didn't. I think that's the best way I can wrap this up. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you
I
do you
can see your point.
do you feel the same way? Do you think you liked it just right, or you feel that you wanted to like it a little more?
I feel, considering the circumstances, I feel like I like it more than you because I
Yeah,
went into a different approach. But I can see see why you feel the way you like.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So I think that does it for this episode of the Amateur Talk podcast. We talked Guilty Crown. It's a show that you should check out. It's a fun show. If you're looking for something good and easy to watch, it's only 22 episodes. Like I said, the mythology and the lore is fascinating. The action is very good, and you have great supporting characters. We did like the character how it grows towards the end. The ending is, but a lot of animes end like, but it's a good ride. So go check it out.
I
Guilty
wouldn't say
Crown is.
that. I wouldn't say that the ending is horrible, though.
Well, I didn't say horrible. I said, You know what I mean? Like it's not like what's an anime with a horrible ending? Oh, End of Evangelion. It's not like that. It's an okay ending, but
So you say you're not against the end of Evangelion after all?
oh no, I hate it with all my soul. And
Yeah, that movie is the official ending. You know that, right?
I have imaginary puppies, and my imaginary puppies bark furiously every time I say End of Evangelion. Okay, that was weird, but no, you can't
That
tell me
was
that.
really
You cannot tell me that that's the official ending when they're making 4 movies to rewrite it. Okay, Isaac?
that was the creator have said.
Carry on. So, maddening, Isaac. Maddening. But yes, go watch Guilty Crown. It's something you should check out. You know our thoughts. Go watch it and give us your thoughts. Maybe we're all wrong. We definitely want to hear what you think about this show, and recommend to us what you want us to watch next. We know there's a lot of anime out there. There's a lot of anime that we want to cover on the show, but we really want to go off your recommendations. Recommend us any shows, any animes that you would like us to cover. If you would like us to talk about a particular show, send us a comment on the description on the YouTube channel, on Facebook, on Twitter, or send us a direct message at Amateur Otaku Pod, as you can see on the screen. Or you can send us an email at amateurotakurtf@gmail.com. Send us an email with your questions and your request, and we'll watch the show and cover it for you. And tell us our thoughts on that show. Isaac, anything else before we go?
No,
Okay, guys, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your holidays, and we will see you next Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our coverage of the latest 2 episodes of Attack on Titan, the final season. Have it awesome, guys. Peace.
peace.